the sequence of events that transpired after approximately 3 p.m. to when he went into the water, that's what remains a mystery.
A 4th of July beach celebration darkens when 18-year-old Nolan Wells vanishes.
If you're going out towards Horn Island, I need you to keep your eyes out for 18-year-old Nolan Wells.
His body washes up days later and brings with it question after question.
Why did this kid leave them the cell phone if that's what actually happened?
But it's clear that there's been a significant period of time between the boat leaving, the last time Nolan was seen, and this boat getting back to his original owner.
What we've been told does not make sense.
Now, the family and the world are demanding answers.
And we're talking about the Deep South. We're talking about a very charged political time. We're talking about one black kid with several white kids. There is a scenario under which there could potentially be something that
The sequence of events that transpired after approximately 300 p.m.s to when he went into the water. That's what remains a mystery. An 18-year-old athlete vanishes from a barrier island off the Mississippi coast. His body surfaces days later. But it's not the drowning that haunts this case. It's the 3-hour gap no one can explain. The gap between when Nolan Wells was last seen alive and when his friend's boat finally reached shore.
What we've been told does not make sense.
Now, the family and the world are demanding answers.
And we're talking about the Deep South. We're talking about a very
What
charged...
we've been told does not make sense. The timeline is the first fracture in the official story. Nolan Wells arrived on Horn Island with 3 friends around 11:15 a.m. on July 4th, 2026. By 300 p.m., according to the friend's account, Nolan decided to stay behind. He wanted to talk to a girl named Katie. He'd catch another ride. His friends said they left him there.
Don't have answers for. Why exactly did Nolan Wells separate from his friends? Did he drown? Was there foul play? Why would he leave his cell phone and keys with his friends? And would this investigation be treated any differently had Nolan Wells been white? We're going through all of those questions and more, giving you a complete timeline up to the point of this recording. So let's begin with who Nolan was. He was born on August 19th, 2007, making him only 18 years old at the time of his death. He grew up in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. It's a coastal town east of Biloxi. He graduated high school there just last year in 2025 and started college at Southwest Mississippi Community College in the fall, where he played receiver on the football team. His coach, Les George, told People magazine, quote, "Nolan was a genuine person. You come across people in life that are just salt of the earth, the kind who want to see the good in everyone and make other people feel good and accepted. That's who Nolan was." On July 4th, Nolan decided to celebrate the holiday with some friends, visiting Horn Island off
a very charged political time. We're talking about one black kid with several white kids. There is a scenario under which there could potentially be something to hide.
That if he was last seen on the island at 3 p.m. And they apparently not only did they leave there, go to another area, then go to dock and get told there's a lot that could have transpired between that time, especially putting that in conjunction with the text messages and Snapchat history that was allegedly deleted from his phone or missing from his phone. So there's a lot of time for people to get their stories straight, to talk to maybe counsel or others about what needs to be the narrative when they arrive. 4:31 p.m. Z. GPS data records the boat leaving Horn Island. 6:06 p.m. C. The boat is towed to shore, taking on water. 7:19 p.m. It arrives at Fort Bay Boat Launch. That's 3 hours and 48 minutes between Nolan's last known sighting and the boat docking. 3 hours and 48 minutes of unaccounted time. 3 hours and 48 minutes for stories to be aligned, for phones to be checked, for evidence to be managed.
Sort of like the Outer Banks of the Carolinas. It's just a popular recreational destination.
According to The Guardian, Nolan went out on a boat with 3 of his friends headed for Horn Island. They reportedly arrived right around 11:15 a.m. on July 4th. So they hung out on the island for a couple of hours, did 4th of July and beachy things, until it was time to leave. And here's where the story gets complicated. According to GPS data, the boat left Horn Island at 4:31 p.m., but what led up to this incident is confusing.
So the story which was told to me was that at approximately 3 p.m., his friend group that he had gone to the island with decided they were going to leave. They had to get back, and Nolan had started talking to I was told it was a young female, but he was talking to some other people, had decided that, hey,
who have lost loved ones. That's one thing that she did say. But out of this, where you have a sheriff that said there's no foul play initially, and then you have the family demand an independent investigation, and then you have a meeting between the family and along with the family's lawyer, that is very significant. I think that shows that the public pressure and the national attention to this area of Mississippi has
We've just had an opportunity to meet with District Attorney Angel McGrath and some members of her team. We had a very respectful meeting. She shared with the family that there will be a grand jury that she will turn this case over to once they have collected all the information and finished their investigation. A grand jury. That was the concession. The DA's office agreed to present the case. But more than that, they agreed to something unusual, a mutual inspection of Nolan's phone, with Crump's experts present alongside state investigators.
Crump, he's nationally known. I've seen him in San Bernardino down the street from me. But where people got to know him on a national standpoint is in Florida, where he's from. But he's got connections to the South, of course, deep connections to the South, went to school in the South.
But out of this, where you have a sheriff that said there's no foul play initially, and then you have the family demand an independent investigation, and then you have a meeting between the family and along with the family's lawyer, that is very significant. I think that shows that the public pressure and the national attention to this area in Mississippi has made the DA change some of the way she's addressing this by meeting with the victim's family and even coming to the extent of doing some joint things together with the victim's family and their attorney. That's not common in situations like this. Not common. That's the phrase to hold on to. Not common for a DA to agree to joint evidence review. Not common for law enforcement to concede ground before an autopsy is even complete. But the pressure was mounting. National figures were paying attention. Tyler Perry, Spike Lee, and Colin Kaepernick contributed funds for the family's independent investigation and a second autopsy.
Something along the lines of, we don't see any foul play here. We don't suspect foul play. That's a premature statement. And I think that unfortunately suggested to some people that they were rushing to judgment.
The big issue here is that the early announcement of no foul play, the evidence of the cell phone that the family...
Ben Crump, he's nationally known. I've seen him in San Bernardino down the street from me. But where people got to know him on a national standpoint is in Florida, where he's from, but he's got connections to the South. Of course, deep connections to the South. Went to school in the South, has handled cases in Mississippi, etc. Crump didn't just bring attention. He brought a fundamental question. Why would a sheriff announce no foul play before the autopsy was complete? Before toxicology results were available? Before the phone had been forensically examined?
Even though it didn't come out till the weekend of July 4th, was actually taken a week or so earlier. There is some question with that recording about who is arguing with who about wanting their phone back. The friend said it's him and not Nolan Wells. So there is just a lot of speculation and misinformation out there. And then, as to the statements from the people on the island, you'd really need to dig down to see exactly what they said. It sounds like the friends told law enforcement that Nolan Wells wanted to stay behind to talk with some young woman. Sounds like the young woman said he left her to go back to get on the boat with his friends. That's not necessarily a conflicting statement, right? Both things could be true. If she didn't actually see him get on the boat, that doesn't necessarily mean that he made it back there, and something might have happened along the way. So you'd really have to look at the exact words that folks used in describing what they thought happened. And it's not unusual in a case like this for different people to have different perspectives and for those to appear to be in conflict.
Nolan's family says it.
I think there's two things that you can agree with right now between those families and those parents. I don't believe either of them wanted the son dead. Okay. And I believe that they both understand that the judge doesn't want her kid to go to jail either. So all of this is going on, which makes transparency related.
Unfortunately, I think an early statement from the sheriff's office, something along the lines of, we don't see any foul play here. We don't suspect foul play. That's a premature statement. And I think that unfortunately suggested to some people that they were rushing to judgment. The big issue here is that the early announcement of no foul play, the evidence of the cell phone that the family received. I believe a couple days after Nolan went missing or the night of, I can't recall the exact time, and then the missing of text messages and Snapchat data. This is the heart of the matter. A premature statement. Deleted digital evidence. A family that doesn't trust the official process. And a very specific question, does the system treat cases differently when the accused might be connected to the system itself? One of the friends on that boat was Warren Cole. His mother is Judge Ashley Cole of Jackson County, Mississippi. A judge whose son was on that boat. A judge who released multiple public statements defending her son and criticizing the attention being diverted from the Wells family.
It is possible that criminal charges could be filed.
Right. It's anything that's a criminal charge pertaining to the disappearance and the death of this young man here could be a criminal charge. It could be obstruction of justice. All right. You could have some accessories after the
Now,
fact.
prosecutors have their own discretion. They don't have to file charges based on what comes out of these grand jury proceedings, but it is possible that criminal charges could be filed, right? It's anything that's a criminal charge pertaining to the disappearance and the death of this young man here. Could be a criminal charge. It could be obstruction to justice. All right? You could have some accessories after the fact. We don't know if it's going to be homicide and murder. But there could be some criminal charge that could come out of this. This isn't just about what happened on Horn Island anymore. It's about what happened after, about who had time to get their story straight, about whether the system that's supposed to find the truth is actually capable of doing so when the truth might implicate one of its own. Crump and his team are funding an independent autopsy. The body was sent to Washington, D.C. for examination by forensic experts independent of the Jackson County system. And that means we're waiting for two sets of results, the official one and the private one, to see if they tell the same story.
And the search began immediately. People online sounded the alarm, urging beachgoers and residents across the area to keep an eye out for Nolan.
5 July 2026, really important. I know you guys are going to be out on the boat today. Enjoy your day. If you're going out towards Horn Island, I need you to keep your eyes out for 18-year-old Nolan Wells. Black young man, about 6'1", 180 pounds, was last seen on that north end of Horn Island. Guys, he hasn't been found. Okay, he was last talking to a girl on that north end. He went out to Horn Island with some buddies yesterday out on a boat. He's not been heard from in close to 24 hours. So guys, if you're out there fishing, if you're out there, jet skiing, doing whatever you guys are doing, keep your eyes out for Nolan. Family's going to be out there in the boat searching. We're going to try and get some air assets up there. We know there's surface assets around. Coast Guard's been notified. Local police have been notified. Guys, please keep your eyes out. Look at the poster, look at the pictures. Let's see what we can do. Let's find this young boy. His mother's worried sick.
You're going to have two, mutual examinations of the phone, I think is going to be quite critical. Now, what is that going to lead to? I'm not entirely sure. Is anything on that phone going to provide a piece of evidence as to what actually happened to Nolan? Maybe, maybe not. I'm skeptical of that. But at the very least, this is a development that they at least have his phone, which we know in a number of different cases, particularly missing persons cases.
You're going to have two, mutual examinations of the phone, I think is going to be quite critical. Now, what is that going to lead to? I'm not entirely sure. Is anything on that phone going to provide a piece of evidence as to what actually happened to Nolan? Maybe, maybe not. I'm skeptical of that. A skepticism is appropriate here, because even with two autopsies and joint phone examination, we might never get a definitive answer. Drowning is a cause of death, not a manner of death. It could be accidental, suicidal, or homicidal. And without a witness, without a confession, without physical evidence of trauma, we may be left with nothing but a mystery and a family that will never know what happened to their son.
If the determination is that he drowned, well, that's a cause of death. It's not a manner of death, right? You could drown accidentally. You could drown by suicide. You could drown by homicide. So we might, at the end of the day, have all the facts in and still not have an answer that satisfies the grieving family or other people that are concerned about what happened.
Wow, there's a lot to take in with this case.